Vandersloot will not be rearrested. That's right. We've been waiting for the decision, and an appeals court in Aruba has upheld a ruling that there is not enough evidence to bring Joran into custody again.
Well, it turns out that undercover tell-all confession that we all watched, the one where Joran is heard talking about having Natalie Holloway's body dumped overboard after a night of partying. Now, that just wasn't enough to put him behind bars for a third time. Officially, he is still considered a suspect by the Aruban authorities in this case. So what will it take to arrest him again, or is he basically off the hook in this case?
With us now for a big story exclusive are Joran Vandersloot's attorneys, Joe Tacopina and Rosemarie Arnold. Joe, you've been tied up in courts for a few days and weren't able to come in here. There were a lot of people, a lot of lawyers sitting in that chair expecting your client to be arrested again because he made what sounded like a clear confession on this tape. Why is he not in jail at the moment?
Because what he said in that tape, despite the horrific nature of what he said and quite frankly the unexcusable nature of his conduct, inexcusable nature of his conduct, John, was not corroborated by the evidence. As a matter of fact, it was defied by the evidence. A three-judge panel reviewed the first judge's denial of the Aruban prosecutor to try and rearrest Joran for a third time. They said, looking at the statement objectively, it, one, wildly inconsistent. It is at points, he makes no admissions at all and tells a story. Also, the evidence is the story that he gave while under the influence of marijuana, which is something the judges took seriously in their rendering this decision, was contradicted by the hard evidence in this case. So,
what's the hard evidence in the case?
Well, for instance, the guy who supposedly came and moved the body on the boat wasn't in Aruba in 2005. Didn't meet Joran until 2007.
But apparently
doesn't have a boat.
Peter DeVries, the investigator, says that the first time he was asked Joran that, he said, "I'm never going to tell you what the person's name was who helped me." And the second time, he feels that Joran just came up with a name, and everybody knows that that person wasn't there, that he's covering for someone else. But
that doesn't make sense, though. I mean, if he's giving up a name and they could disprove that name, clearly the story's not going to work. One, Martha. Two, he also said, and another time in the story, that he just called someone and left. He didn't even see a boat come and remove the body. So that story, don't forget, it was 20 hours of tapes that people heard about a minute and a half, and it was disprovable. And Joran has, don't forget, he's since met with the police, with the Dutch and Aruban police, and explained why it was not truthful. And that's something the judge weighed.
One thing that's very hard to understand, I just want to ask one thing, is, it's understandable when someone lies about having not done something. Mm-hmm. Harder to understand when someone lies about admitting to a crime.
Funny, you would think that, because, you probably have never been in that position before. John, I suspect maybe you may have been close to being in that position before. But the false confessions is a very real thing. And when you induce people to do things, and there was a whole line of conversations that are not recorded on the tape, there's an inducement, and then there's drugs being fed, and then this guy's saying, just tell me the story. And look, I'm not making an excuse for that conduct, but I'm talking about the case and why Joran wasn't arrested. A three-judge appellate panel upheld another judge's decision not to rearrest him. Don't forget, he's been arrested twice in this case on almost no evidence. So you know that this tape here is not evidence to bring this case to court.
Rosemarie, you're on the same team here as Joe. Joran will not be arrested. With his mouth, how does he stay out of jail?
He stays out of jail. His mouth is we can't defend his mouth, and as parents it's very hard to defend what he said, but as far as saying that he didn't do anything that was illegal, so you can't put someone in jail because he has a bad mouth or because he's disrespectful.
Well, no, but I mean, he goes and he says, look, I essentially witnessed her die, although he wasn't really sure that she was dead. I called somebody who helped me dispose of the body. If I say that on a piece of tape, I'm in jail, even if I hired Joe Tacopina, I'm sure.
Not if you're saying it under the influence of marijuana in a car, and everything you say along with it is disprovable. Joe just went through everything that was on that tape that was disprovable. There was 20 hours of tape. They get a minute and a half of things that he made up to impress some criminal. Again, why? Because he's a young kid trying to do that. But he didn't do anything. The worst thing they said he did was make a phone call.
Well, there are some people, Joe, that think the best thing Joran did was just hire good lawyers, and that he, maybe dug himself into a hole, but it was his lawyers who got him out.
Okay, I'll accept that. Thank you very much, Sean. No further questions. No, look, it's not a laughing matter. It's a sad situation. This is not about a victory for Joran. This is not a victory. He obviously needs to get some help, some counseling, and to deal with this. His parents have been put through the ringer. The Holloway family has been. This case is just a sad case from start to finish, unfortunately.
Joe Tacopina and Rosemarie Arnold, the attorneys representing Joran Vandersloot, who is not in jail. And this is an exclusive interview on The Big Story. Thanks to both of you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. All right.